So, lads, today we are going to be talking about the potential lockout in the WNBA. And in my opinion, it is something that will literally halt any momentum. Will it destroy the WNBA? Will it end the WNBA? No. There is one scenario that the lockout will end the WNBA, and it's one specific sticking point that can never and will never happen. But if this is a sticking point, it might, as I've said in other videos. But the way the WNBA is going right now, it was rumored, obviously, Cleveland are getting one of the expansion teams, and that brings the league up to 16. The rumor was 16 is like what we're going for. The goal is 16. But now you're seeing Boston trying to get a team. You're seeing M&M joining the Detroit team. The Detroit group, which includes owners of the Lions, Tigers, Red Wings, and Pistons, is one of about a dozen vying for a WNBA team in this round of expansion. So there is expansion. People want to buy into the WNBA. And the thing is, for the vast majority of these people, you're not going to make money short term. It's for a long term thing. If anything, these franchises are going to appreciate in value purely based on land. Like, if they own their training facility, they're going to appreciate in value just based on inflation of land value. And the league is not going to go anywhere long term. But, and I mean this as a but, there is one thing that I think there's only one thing that could cause a work stoppage. And that is equity. If the WNBA, who have talked about equity, are stuck on getting equity in their franchises, it opens such a big can of worms. Like, you do not understand what the implications would be. The implications that players get equity in their franchises mean the best thing you can do if you have a 13-year WNBA career is try get traded at the end of every single season, and every single season for your career move to a new team. Like, that is literally the smartest way to do it. Because you might be saying, oh, but like, you know, the equity is only there if you stay with that team. If you leave the team, you lose equity. Then that can't be in the CBA, because by that logic, then if you have equity in the Liberty and you get traded to the Sun, who aren't worth nearly as much, you lose a whole bunch. You lose your equity. Like, that's not how it's going to happen. And again, as I've said, there's a finite amount of equity. The WNBA made a deal with the devil. They made deals with the devil to stay alive. In order to stay alive, the WNBA had to put themselves in a position where they only have 42% left. They can't start giving away equity to players. Because what happens in 10 years' time when suddenly the league itself, because they're giving equity to players and players are jumping around everywhere and doing the smart financial thing, suddenly has 10% revenue, and the salaries players are getting are in the 20,000. You're offering 30,000 a year. Like, that's basically what's going to end up happening long term over the course of it. Like, NECA might make a ton of money. Like, a lot of these players might make a ton of money, but it's like, it's just not, like, the players did a good job growing the league, yeah, but like, and by the way, if as an individual, maybe it's something that should be allowed to be done, a little bit like Lionel Messi getting equity in the MLS and something. Maybe it should be a deal that would be allowed to be done, but I don't think they realize that the only player in the WNBA that has the actual like clout and viewership pull to get equity in their franchise is Caitlin Clark. If it's a rule that they're allowed, there is one player. Like in the NBA, LeBron James, Stephen Curry. I don't think anyone else has enough pull to get equity in their franchise, not above a salary. LeBron, Steph, that is it. That is it. And LeBron's probably going to become a part owner of a team. Steph Curry is doing side quests right now, and that's just the reality of it. But if the WNBA keeps going as they are, they will continue to make money. Like, let's just say by the time the next expansion is 400 million to get into the league, which isn't that far-fetched considering the fact that WNBA generates not that much different revenue from the MLS, and that's in and around what it costs to get into the MLS. Maybe that's low for what it costs to get into the MLS. And obviously other things are going to be there. And with Nneka Nwumike, she's talking about a lot of other things. And I don't think, again, these players realize when it comes to pay, the bigger the pay increase they want, the less likely it is that they get. Like, because charter flights are now a thing. So obviously the money's being put there for charter flights. But the more they want, like, charter flights, all the retirement benefits, which they deserve, the less their pay is going to go up. And I think there's going to be a work stoppage. The fact that they're talking about it more and more, I don't think the WNBA 2026 season happens, which is very annoying, which will be very annoying because, again, I've just saw this. Detroit are trying to get a team. Boston are trying to get a team. In the 2026 season, the Toronto Tempo and the Portland basketball team are going to be entering the WNBA for a season that might not happen. There is a chance that two expansion teams, and what happens then when they paid their expansion fee and the season doesn't happen? Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen, and who knows what's going to happen to, like, these other bids if the league just kind of shuts down. Like, the league is infinitely less appealing if it shuts down for these expansion teams. And long term, the like impact of a work stoppage is probably going to harm the players a lot more than it's going to help. And by the sounds of, you know, the Angel Reese thing, it's if we don't get what we want, we're done. So the players are talking about how much leverage they have. They're saying unrivaled leverage, and I'm sorry. Unrivaled is not going to last more than 3 years unless something drastically changes. Yes, you know what? Love the fact that there was an idea. Like, love the fact that there's an alternate sports league. Love the fact that they tried it. Like the fact that they tried something different and a lot of people got involved. But there's a reason why Juju Watkins is an investor and not a future player, because they cannot make any commitments for the year Juju Watkins comes in. And I don't think Unrivaled's happening that year. It's not lasting more than 3 years. Again, I hope something changes and Unrivaled is like an actual good basketball league. But I'm sorry, 500 people were watching a do or die game on the stream. So outside of America, the only place you can watch it outside America, 500 people watched. There are thousands of non-Americans. Thousands. Maybe probably 100,000 minimum people that were staying up till all hours watching Caitlin Clark play from other countries other than America. 500 for Unrivaled. And, like, if they're trying to use Unrivaled as leverage, like, these players don't quite have the leverage they think they have. And I think the issue is that I think the next CBA, because what's probably going to happen is the expansion teams are going to come in. There's going to be a whole bunch of expansions. There's going to be a lot of hype. You ride the hype train. If you're these players, you get the best deal that you possibly can without a lockout. Ride the hype, keep things going. Paige coming in, Juju coming in, Latsing coming in, full Wiley. Like, Booker's not that interesting. Hidalgo, Michaela Blake, Silas Swords, all these players coming in. They're all hoopers. They're all going to bring their fans with them. They're all going to improve the league. They're all going to start hyping things up. And then after the 3 year time, you can renegotiate the TV deal, get more money, you get all the expansion fees in, and then opt out of the next CBA. Or put something in your collective bargaining agreement, like the TV deal. We can opt out of the CBA, or we can opt out of the CBA if the league opts out of the TV deal. If the league opts out of the TV deal, we're allowed to opt out of the CBA. So then in 3 years' time, if there's 3 years of sustained money coming in and there's sustained growth of the league and the league's going really well, then you're in a much better position because all these expansion teams are already here. There's no risk of losing the expansion teams. They've already paid their expansion fees, and the TV deal is more for longer, so you can then completely renegotiate everything. But the WNBA PA hinting that if they don't get what they want, one of the things is freaking equity. One of the things is equity. That is, like, I understand why you would want equity. By the way, again, if I was in that league as a selfish person, I'd want equity. I'd want equity because you're seeing how much these franchises are being raised. And I understand that they're being raised because of the players in the franchises. But no offense, these franchises are being raised more so than anything because of a boom in women's sports and Caitlin Clark. Like, I'm sorry, the Dallas Wings doubled in value because of Caitlin Clark. That's a factual statement. And also, men's sports is you can't afford to get ownership in a men's sports team. So people are going into women's sports. Just like you couldn't afford to buy a team in the Premier League. So all these rich billionaires that weren't multi-billionaires were buying teams, were buying MLS teams, which caused the price of the MLS to rise. And there are only a finite amount of top tier teams, especially franchises in America, which are more valuable because there's no relegation. There's only a finite amount and a finite amount of leagues. And the NBA, you have to be worth 10 billion realistically to own a team in the NBA. Whereas in the WNBA, it's a hell of a lot cheaper. It is 10% cheaper, and the WNBA is having a greater short-term return on investment percentage-wise. So anyway, yeah, that's the video. If the work stoppage, lockout, strike, whatever you want to call it, happens, the WNBA, it could be screwed. It could be a bad thing. But anyway, I'll see you guys.